Hi everyone, it's Linda McKenna coming to you today with Tuesday Talks from Golden Rule Senior Placement Services. We had decided on a specific topic this time, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what to consider in choosing a memory care community and or home for your senior loved one. It's very overwhelming as it is to be at this threshold of your senior loved one needing more care than you could provide, maybe in their home or your home, and add on the complex um, diagnoses of memory care, Alzheimer's, dementia. It adds a little bit of more detail that you really need to take a lot of considerations for placing a senior loved one. To say that assisted living is appropriate for all, not so much when it comes to memory care. Not that they need to be segregated, but there is special programs in memory care communities, and as well as they are mixed with their own likeness of a population. You don't want them to be overlooked or felt intimidated by those that are a little bit more independent than they can be. So it could be very frustrating to them. And this is why when you're going through this process, um, it's very hard to remove yourself emotionally with placement of your senior loved one. And having the guidance of a senior living advisor or senior advisor or senior advocate as I place myself with you is that I take that responsibility away from you and provide you with the best options that you're not laboriously navigating this by yourself emotionally and physically. So it does take a toll on you as a senior loved one. It could be your spouse, it could be your mother, your father, your aunt, or uncle, your grandmother, grandfather. So whoever that it may be, you have an emotional stake in it. And now that I'm not emotional, I'm there. Believe me, I carry tissues with me. I've been through this, not only personally, but many times over professionally. So I know the emotional part that you're going through. I take that away from you and give you more facts and guidance through this journey. And it is a journey. And as I said to somebody today with his senior loved one, a spouse, that you tend to neglect yourself through this whole process because you're so, indulged in their care and you forget to take care of yourself. And there's nothing guilty or nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. In order to be your best with your senior loved one, your spouse, your parent, you have to be at your best. So let's concentrate and work on this together. And like I said, it does take a village of professionals guiding you and navigating this journey with you, okay? So before we actually, go around and touring, we really have to establish what choices that you may have for your senior loved one. And, I stress this all the time as the four pillars of needs. I don't really mind keep bringing it up and illustrating it. The four pillars of needs are financial. You have to be able to afford this because in most cases it is private pay with some supplemental insurances or assurances. But medically, it's got to be appropriate for your loved one. Socially, it's got to be appropriate for your loved one. No matter what level they are in their disease processes, may it be memory loss or physical comorbidities, we stimulation is so important. So socialization is very important. And my last pillar of needs is your spiritual needs need to be fulfilled as well. So, as you search for a memory care community, the best fits for your senior loved ones, with me guiding you along the way, together we will comprise a list of your top choices. So I kind of really narrow it down because of those four pillars of needs. So we're not aimlessly driving around or going to see facilities that you might not be able to afford or are not appropriate for your loved one. It is important that together that we take time to tour each community in detail. where we will have the opportunity to personally ask questions of staff and other families whose senior loved ones reside at that community or home. Um, I schedule our tours versus you doing it yourself. I want the undivided attention of that sales director guiding us on that tour, so this way we can meet the executive director, the owner of the home, because the whole philosophy of that community and of that home, you want to meet it very far in the beginning stages to make sure that it is right. You don't want to meet everybody afterwards. So I schedule a specific appointment that is not only appropriate for you to go view, but it's also appropriate for them, so this way they can give us their undivided attention. We'll be able to determine if this specific community is a perfect fit for you and your senior loved one. Here are some questions and here are some ideas that we present along the way to ask of the memory care community when we are touring and possibly considering for your senior loved one to reside at. Number one, here's about 10 poignant issues and concerns and questions. What level of care does your community provide? Well, that is important. A level of care is who is actually providing that care, and how are you paying for that? Is it separate? Is it inclusive? What is their licensure that they're able to provide that care, or is it ancillary brought from the outside in? There is different levels for community, a senior living community, whether it be assisted, memory care, or even independent. So you really want to know, and that's what these questions I am actually going to go through with you so you'll have a better understanding of it. But these are important because you want your senior loved one to age in place. So the level of care is important. They might not need it now, but in the future, as they grow through their processes with memory loss, there's going to be requirements that their staff is going to be able to provide your senior loved one and not have to move again. What type of training has the staff received? Everyone that is staffed at that community, memory care community, or in that memory care secured unit, or in that home, has to have Alzheimer training. I'm sorry, that is a requirement. I'm a certified ALS administrator, and I had to have that training as well. So I know to look for those aspects and make sure that those items are filled and with care in that community by that staff. So Alzheimer training is important. It is redirecting behavior. There's so many modifications in that process of learning what Alzheimer's, the disease processes are. So that is very, very important. If they're not trained appropriately, aimlessly, they are just a person that happens to work in that community and doesn't really know what your senior loved one is going through with their disease. Number 3, are rooms private or semi-private, and how do prices vary for each? Well, in certain situations, there is a semi-private requirement. When there is long-term care Medicaid involved, that is subsidized by the state, part of the requirement is to have a semi-private room. They are going to be of the gender, so your mother would be with another female resident. But if there is no long-term care Medicaid restrictions or requirements, then a private room is definitely available as well too. The prices will vary. Obviously, having a semi-private room is going to be less expensive than a private room as well. Number 4, what is the policy for handling medical emergency? Very, very important. Remember, I told you there's different licensure. So, of course, then some cases, if there is a specific license like standard, they can't handle emergencies like the ones that have a nursing license attached to their community. And that being said, they will have to call out outside ancillary help like EMTs or EMS to come in and bring your loved one to the hospital to get emergency care. Okay? So, why is that important? You want to be proactive in knowing what your senior loved one is going to incur when there is an emergency. And of course, you want to know it as well, too, because you want to be there for that process. Number 5, how is the community secured? Very important. Okay, just because it's a memory care community doesn't mean that it is secured. That means locked, that they can't find their way out. Of course, there is means of getting out of a community guided by the staff for emergencies, fire, whatever the process may be. But is it easy for them to manipulate to get out of their home and new home environment? Is the doors locked? Is the windows locked? Or the sliding glass doors that's on a home that has a pool outside, are they locked? Are they secured enough? Some memory care units are a separate division or a separate entity within a senior living community that it is secure. That means not that they're locked down. I hate that terminology. It's secured. That means there's a keypad to get in and a keypad to get out by, of course, the staff that's there. So that is important, especially for folks that are wanderers, that they are constantly on foot trying to get somewhere else than where they are. What meals are provided? Any special dietary requests such as mechanical soft, diabetic, low salt, and kosher meals accommodated? Very, very important when it comes to memory care. And I know this specifically and personally. When somebody is advanced in their Alzheimer's process, they may develop swallowing issues. That it's not only that it prevents the actual verbiage of being able to speak, but they can't swallow whole foods like they used to. There's that memory block to it. A speech therapist not only helps with that process and cognitive thinking, but a diet is very important, and that's what they call mechanical soft. So it's easier to go down through their swallowing or the minimized swallowing. And think of it this way. You don't want them to choke and you don't want them to aspirate. Aspiration is very prevalent with somebody that has swallowing issues. So if they're eating the wrong foods, then of course, or swallowing and drinking the wrong drinks that are not thick and liquids. And if it's liquid, all that food and liquids are going into their lungs, and that's what you call aspiration pneumonia. So we want to avoid that totally. Diets are important if they're diabetic, that they have to have less sugar in their meals. Same thing with hypertensive, that you don't want to have salt-laden foods as well too. And a community that is governed by the state and licensed by the state, even a residential home, has to have dietary menus made up by state regulations that are able to provide for diabetics, even kosher, or even the low salt variety. So this is important because, again, we don't want to make mistakes and find out later that we should have, could have, would have, and been prepared for that process. And depending on the community's license, if we didn't know that from the very beginning that they want to age in place, if they can't provide mechanical soft diets, it is only prohibitive to really start at that community when they're a little bit less in their disease process, because as they get older, we're going to have to move again because they can't provide that. So that's important. Does the family accommodate special care needs such as diabetic care management, mobility issues, decreased ADLs, physical aggressiveness, and wandering? Again, that is something with the Alzheimer's training and our requirements that a memory care community should adhere to. Yes, there is special care requirements. We want to reduce wounds. We do not want to have pressure ulcers, especially for diabetics. And we want to be able to actually provide physical therapy and have them as mobile as much as possible. As the old saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. same case here. We want them to be as active as their body can allow them to be. Our residents group by cognitive level. That is always an issue in any memory care community. There's all levels of cognitive ability in the larger buildings, and also in skilled nursing facilities. So somebody that might be in the early stages of Alzheimer's and dementia could be with somebody that is in their last stages. So there is no separation. They try to pair them, especially if they are in a semi-private room with the same cognitive level. So this way, they can be stimulated with each other in conversation, okay? Well, they can watch out for each other as well. What is the ratio of staff to residents during the day and night? Very important when that was just brought up. Not only during the day, the staff ratio, but at night. As we know with memory care needs, Alzheimer's and dementia, there is what they call sundowners. Pretty much they sleep during the day, and then the evening time they're wandering and they're up. So there should be an awake staff, may it be in the residential care home or in a community. That should be staffed just the same. Very, very important, because that is something that they need to be attentive to the care of their residents. Okay, so the ratio varies from facility to facility, depend on staffing issues or the availability of staff. In skilled nursing, it is a larger entity. In a smaller home, it is less of a ratio. And in a large community, a residential senior living community, the ratio is going to be larger. So if that's a concern of yours, that's something that we will discuss before we go out to tour. And lastly, how does the facility communicate with families about a resident's well-being? If you're not communicative or they're not communicative with you, that is not the place where you want your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, your spouse. Communication is key. And I have to say, learning that from my own father and mother that were in a large senior living community, there was communication every day. And I used to say I want to be called good, bad, and indifferent. It's not only me as a daughter being an advocate for my parents, but also as the responsibility of being their POA, power of attorney. So communication is important, and as much communication, we want to be proactive, we want to be preventative, we want to address issues before they really blow out of proportion. So communication, we're going to ask that. How can I communicate? Especially for you folks that might be living far away from your loved one, how are they going to communicate with you? There's a lot of them that do electronic communication, phone calls. There's always means of communication, and I stand steadfast behind that, and you'll hear me ask that when we're on our tour. So no other additions right now, but this is something that we go through together as we tour. These are some of the very vital questions that I ask. You might not remember to ask, but me being on the tour with you, I'm going to ask, even though I know the answer. I'm going to ask, so this way it's reiterated with you. I am your senior advisor. I'm your advocate, not only for yourself, but your senior loved one. Give me a call. I'd be delighted and honored to help you on this journey and not make it so overwhelming, and make it that they have a better quality of life. So give me a call. Go to my website. It's www.goldenruleseniorplacement.com, and there you'll find a whole host of information, as we spoke about today: independent living, assisted living, all the different types of memory care, residential care homes. So those options are there, the various options. There is resources, there's my testimonials, my demographics to get in touch with me, all the social media links, and all these videos that maybe you want to recatch another one at a later date. So get in touch with me. I'll be honored to guide you on this journey. And most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourself, because they need you now and later on as well. Have a blessed week, and I'll be talking to you for Tuesday Talks with Linda McKenna at Golden Rule Senior Placement Services. Bye-bye now.